All right. Hello, everybody. Feels like it's been forever since we've been back. Welcome to the Alex Cuesta Show. Joining me, as always, David over there on the other side. Hello, David.
I wouldn't say as always. Sometimes.
Well, I mean, you're on the Alex Cuesta Show. I just hit my mic. I'm so sorry. On the Alex Cuesta Show, you do join me all the time. On the Alex Cuesta Daily Show, a lot less often. I think that's a fair assessment.
That's fair.
So we're back. We took a little bit of a hiatus. One was because we were on vacation. Two was because we didn't have our bearings. So we've taken, I think it's been 2 weeks off. I was just getting going with the Daily Show. David was traveling back and forth at the time in transit. So it just wasn't a good thing for us. But we're here. We're ready to go, ready to do some more. Before we get going and jump in, I'd like to tell my spiel that I do all the time. If you enjoy what you hear on the Alex Cuesta Show, the Alex Cuesta Daily Show, please do not hesitate. Like, share, follow, subscribe, rate 5 stars wherever you are if you have the option to give a rating. And as always, spread the word. Word of mouth is the biggest way. If you start talking and saying, hey, Alex might be a fucking idiot, but David's not too bad, we might get some more listeners, and that would be great. That's always what we're looking for here. So go ahead and do that. As always with the socials, I don't feel like giving it to you guys. No one deserves it yet. I'm not doing it. Go look up the Alex Cuesta Show wherever you are on social media. You'll find it there. We're recording today, and hopefully it's going to be another fun show. I am going to warn people. My computer has been acting like absolute dog shit before we started getting ready here, and it's been super glitchy and annoying. I even did a virus scan. David's annoyed at me because he has things to do tonight, and I'm forcing him to do this show. So hopefully it doesn't go on the fritz here and we can really get it going well. But if it does, if it sounds terrible, then good chance you won't be hearing me even making this spiel because I'm just going to scrap it. But if you're hearing this, that means it was good enough, or I really didn't care about you guys and how you wanted to hear it. So there's the two things. And I think we can get away with that because during like the height of COVID, there was a whole lot of fuck ups in all audio, even like major syndicated things, and they just rolled with it. So if they can do it, so can we. Professionalism, not our thing. Anyway, let's get going here on the show. I want to start off a little bit of sports things. It kind of mixes into the politics, but it is sports. There's some commentary that I believe can very much just fuck off because it is, let me think, in the words of the left, wrong think, the way that some people are going at Kyrie Irving. Now, any background for people that really don't follow sports, Kyrie Irving is unvaccinated. He is only allowed to play, well, currently, since the NBA and the Nets realized that the vaccines and the masks don't fucking do anything because half their team got Omicron anyway, they decided to let Kyrie play away games only. He was out for almost half the season because of the vaccine nonsense. So he was allowed to play only away games. He still can't play in Brooklyn. And this has caused some talking heads, particularly Stephen A. Smith of ESPN, Charles Barkley of, was the NBA TNT, which I'll say, and Kendrick Perkins, also ESPN, I think. Those three guys are demonizing Kyrie. I had to say this about all three. Normally, I'm fine with them. I like Stephen A. a lot. I know a lot of people don't like Stephen A. I have always stuck up for Stephen A. because I think he is who he is, and I appreciate that. Charles is on the best pre and post game show in basketball. Can't be mad at that unit. Don't like his opinion here. I liked a lot of his opinions before. And Kendrick Perkins is coming into his own more and more as a commentary. When he's talking X's and O's basketball, the man knows his shit. So I do like Perk. But about Kyrie, their general sentiment is he's being selfish. He needs to, quote, literally take one for the team. And it's not right of him to put his team this way. He's being selfish, this and that. And like I said, they could fuck off because a lot of people put in his past transgressions and the fact that last season he did sit out a whole bunch during the George Floyd stuff and Black Lives Matter things going on for mental issues and stuff like that. And I'm not gonna lie, Dave, I even think me and you did some shows on Cuesta Dos. We didn't agree with that. We were not down with that reasoning of Kyrie being out. I think neither of us were on board with that part. But this is completely different. This is a irreversible thing. It's something that if he puts this vaccine into him and he has an adverse reaction, which we have seen athletes going down with, I think it's myocarditis, the heart issue. Yeah, I think I'm saying it right, maybe wrong. Go look it up. Google it and you might get the correcting. But myocarditis is something like that. But they've been going down with that a lot. Now, again, that's also attributed to having COVID as well. But from what we've seen with a lot of these shots, I'm vaccinated, David's vaccinated. I don't think either of us are boosted, but that's also none of your fucking business. I'm taking the DeSantis route and the Rogers route there. But overall, it is a symptom. But what we've seen with these vaccines is people are getting a lot of the COVID symptoms and basically having a mini version of COVID, even with the mRNA vaccine. So who's to say that that mini version of it isn't causing it? And a lot of these have happened after guys have gotten their second dose, boosted doses. And we saw it recently in a soccer game. I think 2 weeks ago, not even a week ago, somebody collapsed in the middle of a soccer game. So it's not far-fetched for perfectly young athletes to be fearful of this, especially guys like Kyrie, who is quick, runs around the floor. Guarantee his heart is about 2 or 3 times the size of normal because most athletes have bigger hearts because they have to pump out more. So him wanting to not stick to his guns on this, I agree with him here. And I disagree with them because a medical procedure is nobody's business. And the angle I think we need to be taking here isn't what's wrong with Kyrie? Why is he being selfish? It's what the fuck is wrong with everybody else? What's wrong with New York City? Why do you have a vaccine mandate? Especially now with Omicron, even with Delta, even with Beta, the original one that came over from the UK, the death rate is minuscule. There should have never been a vaccine mandate, period. And I guess, Dave, it would jive with me a little more if New York City was like, we have a vax mandate, people living there, if you don't have it, you can't do your thing. People are coming into the city, you need to be vaccinated in order to do anything in this city. That would, it would still be stupid. I'd still be against it, but at least there would be some principle there. But New York cities, and they're leftists, so they're hypocrites by nature. Hyperbole and hypocrites is all that, being a hypocrite and using hyperbole, all that leftists have. And as they look at the money that could come in from guys coming in, even though they're unvaccinated. And ladies, Joe Rogan, famously unvaccinated, was cool with going to New York City. They were absolutely happy to have him unvaccinated during the height of the mandate to come do his show. Why? Because it generated money. They're happy to let other basketball players that are unvaccinated or other athletes that are unvaccinated come and do sports in their city. Why? Money. They don't care about Kyrie Irving playing in home games because they're still going to make money off the Nets anyway. James Harden and Kevin Durant were there. Kevin Durant might be out now, but still James Harden. They're still going to make their money off of him. But it's the hypocrisy of the whole thing that makes it even worse. So, Dave, I'm going to end my thing off is that the problem is not Kyrie. The problem is New York City and a really fucking stupid mandate. You got anything to add with this, David?
Not really. Other than I disagree with you saying that even if they didn't allow anyone in without the vaccine, how it would at least be consistent. I disagree with that being any way justifiable in any sense still, but that's the only thing really. For the most part, it's very, I guess, contentious to say this, even though it shouldn't be. But as a young person, there is no reason for someone to come up to you and say, hey, take this drug that you don't need. It's that simple. As a young person, you don't need to take this vaccine. You're not going to die if you get COVID. And it's shown that you can still spread it with the vaccine just as much with the same viral load. So it's not even helping in that way. There is actually possibly putting more harm into your body, taking, whether this be this vaccine or any other kind of pharmaceutical drug that you may not need, into your body. Because there's all sorts of side effects that happen with all sorts of pharmaceuticals, whether this be this vaccine or anything else. If you don't need it, there's no reason for you to take it.
And, taking the Tim Pool route here, talk to a trusted physician that you have a good relationship with and consult with them. And then take their guidance or not, because you're an American and you're a person and you could choose that. Oh, another quick aside when it comes to vaccine, masks, and all that dumb shit. Dave, I had my first semi-run-in with somebody about my mask. Walking into a grocery store, I'm going, minding my business, unmasked because everyone else is stupid at this point wearing a mask, especially now that the CDC officially came out and said that cloth masks do zero and surgical masks do near zero, especially now. But I walked in, do my thing, not wearing a mask because I don't wear them basically anywhere anymore because they're useless. Go in, I'm about to get my cart, and this old timer with a loose fitting mask, hilariously, turns around and looks at me and goes, "Don't forget your mask." And my response was to just stare at him. There were things I could have said. I could have told him to fuck off. I could have done a lot. My response was to just deadpan stare at him and not move a muscle. And he quickly just turned around and walked away. It was just, it wasn't worth making a scene. He wasn't being a Karen. He wasn't being, he was an idiot. Obviously, he's a moron. But the deadpan stare usually works better than anything because then no one knows what's going through your mind when you do the deadpan stare. So most people, if they want to rise, dummies like that want to rise. Dummies like that want a response. They either want complicity or they want an angry response. Those are the two options. So if you give them neither, they don't know what to do with it. And, awkward moments are the best moments of life. So that's my story there. Another quick thing before we get into the crux of the episode here. I told David I don't want the episode to go long. Lo and behold, we're going to go long as we always do. I did a daily show 2 days ago on ID.me being integrated into your the IRS in order to view your tax returns. I think you could still file them without getting an ID.me account. I just want to make that clear. But to view your child tax credit, you have to make an ID.me. If anyone didn't listen to that episode, the ID.me, what it is, you need to log in, you send them a selfie, you show them your driver's license, you show them a whole bunch of identification, potentially your credit, and you create an account and it's a database that you keep all your stuff in. And hooray, working with the federal government or your state, you can access your files as a taxpayer that you should be able to access anyway. But basically, a way to identify yourself. They're being labeled as safe, but this guy's a freak, the one that runs it. His name is Blake Hall. And one thing that was reported when I did the episode a few days ago is that one of the things he said is they don't use the same facial recognition technology a lot of places do. They don't look in wide databases so that if people are having issues, because one of the things is if you send in a bunch of documents, you send in a selfie of yourself, you send in a driver's license, potentially a passport, to get a bunch of pictures of you because they try and match it up to see if you identify as what you say. If the computer, whatever on the other side doesn't match it up, you then have to go to a video call with a quote unquote trusted referee for them to look at you and look at your information and say, okay, that looks like you. Cool. Sounds easy. It could take forever sometimes. I did it. It wasn't too painful, but overall, he said that they don't use a wide database that checks your picture against a ton of pictures to try and get a match. Ends up the guy's a liar. Surprise, surprise. The guy's a liar. And he made a LinkedIn post that it was contradictory to what he said. He said that ID.me uses a specific one-to-many check on selfies tied to government programs targeted by organized crime to prevent prolific identity thieves and members of organized crime from stealing the identities of innocent victims in mass. We avoid disclosing methods we use to stop identity theft and organized crime as it jeopardizes their effectiveness. Criminals are constantly adapting their tactics, and they use information about our protections to harm innocent people. So, for your safety, I'm a fucking liar. That is exactly what he just said there in that paragraph. I lied, and I need to come out with the truth because I got piled on a little bit. I don't hear enough people talking about this, but he came out and decided to be a little honest. So go back and listen to that episode. ID.me is scary. They are making a digital passport. Don't worry about the vaccine passports anymore. That was a smokescreen. They're not going to do it because they already have something where your vaccine records can be there along with everything else about you. They are creating a digital passport. 27 states work with this company. The IRS works with this company. Social Security works with this company. They are making a public-private partnership, and they are gathering all of our information. Tinfoil hat stuff, I know, but it's legit. Go listen to episode, I think it was 10 of The Daily Show. So that's the update on the ID Me stuff going on. Now we're going to get into the meat and potatoes of the episode. Dave, you ready to offend some people? Because that's what we're going to do.
Sure.
Because it needs to be said. It needs to be said. And basically the moral and the title of this is nobody needs to accept you for who you are. Bottom line. We have this big thing with all of the people who have been dubbed, I guess snowflake went away, but this is basically to the snowflakes that are so sensitive, that get offended by everything, that need this. They need you to understand. They need you to be cool with this part. They need you to not be bigoted. They need you to not do this. Now, fuck you. Nobody needs to care about you. Nobody needs to care about what you think. Nobody needs to care about what you are. Nobody needs to care about what you want. That's the moral of the story. But here, let's go back and talk about why so many people in my generation, your generation, younger generations, and even a little older, really feel this way. Dave, what's up?
I will say, I feel like a good subheader to the title should be something that I actually do somewhat agree with in some of the things that are taught, but I probably in a different way, is that no one needs to accept you for who you are, but you yourself have to find a way to accept what you are and work on yourself that way. But we'll get more into that, but I feel like it's a good subheader for that headline.
And like you said, it's true, but in a different way than what those who are propagating that exact message mean it. If you understand what I'm saying, Dave.
I would say with probably some of those that I don't know. I would have to talk to the people. We'd have to have a discussion, but in generality is most likely different.
So the issue is here, Dave, and we're going to get into this. A lot of the messages that are being said to certain groups are in basis of truth, but then they're also meant to undermine and to, you're going to hear me say this, problematize a lot of things and never get to a true solution. So what you said about they have to accept themselves and love themselves and all that, it is true, but they're also taught that acceptance and that love doesn't come from within. It comes from others agreeing with what they want. So we'll get into that more. So the thing is, with this acceptance, it's not something new. This is something that has been ingrained. It has been, in my generation, David's generation, I even think in the generations before us, it has been started in the school area, in kids, and in essence saying that, it's not anymore play nice. It is, oh, well, you can't offend them. And I'm not gonna lie, like the school is not the place to be a dick, but it comes down to the point where we're telling kids that they can't say certain benign things because someone might be offended by it. And that's the type of thing that starts to create I need to watch out for what other people say because words are violence, which is absolute bullshit. They have infiltrated a lot of the schools, if not all of them, as one of the major institutions. And one of the things that, and when I say they, I mean leftists. And I'm not talking Democrats, because the Democrats currently are extremely leftist, but your typical Democrat is now on the right, currently sitting with the right coalition, quote unquote, because there were more freedom-minded people. But the leftists are the ones that want this because they are the ones that are pushing for a Marxist end here. And the reason why they want this type of thing, the reason why they want people to be thriving on acceptance and needing to be accepted and wanting that and craving is because that makes them weak. If you are sitting there and you are judging yourself by what other people accept about you and what they accept about your grouping, the group that you choose to be a part of, that creates a weakness in you because if your group isn't accepted, if you're not accepted, if your collective isn't accepted, you feel offended. You're taught to feel offended for somebody else at that point. Black people are told that there's one person, they have to speak in one voice, that you're supposed to believe this, you're supposed to vote this way. The LGBTQ community, which is fracturing and fraying as we speak, are told that they're supposed to be in solidarity. But there's so much in it. And, one of the other ones, Dave, that I think is offensive, the Asian American, Hawaiian, Pacific Islander, Vietnamese, like they just group a bunch of people that don't even have a lot of shared culture or shared history. And just because they're Asian or Hawaiian or Pacific Islander, they've grouped them all together. And they are supposed to, they group these people together and they're supposed to speak in a shared voice. And the goal is to create them to need each other and to demand acceptance. Because again, like I said, that breeds weakness. They don't want you being an individual. They don't believe in individualism. Because if you're, like David said, if you learn to accept yourself, if you learn to love yourself, if you learn that being on your own is okay, that you are still strong without the acceptance, the positive pats on the head or from anyone else, then you're strong. You don't need the collective. That is not what these leftists want. Dave, anything before I go on to kind of what their messaging is in a lot of different frames?
I would say that in general, humans do like to be a bit tribal and go into groups. That's just a natural thing, though. You'll see it. I would say you used to see it more coalescing around interests and other such things, but now it's coalescing honestly through teachings in schools and social media and everything. But it's more coalescing around identity factors than it is really interest. You do see a lot of things around interest, especially with fandoms, and we could talk a whole bunch about fandoms.
We can have a whole podcast about how fans are losers.
That's a different podcast. That's a completely different podcast.
Yes.
But it's just humans generally like to go into groups. That's a natural thing.
I think the difference is by choice, though.
Yes, that's the thing. One, by choice, and two, you don't want to be so involved in a group that you lose yourself.
Yes, and also not by immutable characteristics, because that's another issue with it. Like, don't get me wrong, it is natural, and anyone that argues this is a moron. It is natural for you to, when you walk into a room and you know nobody, you're going to go with the people that you think look the most like you, kind of dress the most like you, and go and feel them out first before venturing to anybody else. And that's not saying anything wrong about any other groups, because you might go up to that group and say you dress like, if you're like an Abercrombie Aeropostale preppy type of dude, that's your style.
You're not going to go to the Vamp Kids in the room.
You can walk. Hey, listen, I like Aeropostale and all that shit in Hollister. Okay,
no, but what I'm saying is that you'll go to the other preppy kids. You're not going to go to the Goth Kids or Vamp Kids in the room.
You're going to venture to the preppy kids, but then you might walk up to them and talk to them and realize that they're all a bunch of pieces of shit. And then you're going to just kind of do the Homer Simpson and fade into the trees, and then turn around and just start talking to anybody. And then, okay, you might find that, like David said, you might go talk to the Vamp Kids and realize, oh shit, I like anime. They like anime and stuff like that. We have a lot in common. Or you might go talk to the Black Kids or whatever and see and find out that you have more in common. And the thing is, like David said, the Vamp Kids, they're going to congregate together because they have more likeness to each other. And that's the thing. It's what's saying is true with David. People like being amongst each other, but by choice. They like being able to go with each other by choice, not by only immutable characteristics. So one of the things I want to get into here is the way that they kind of lure people in to being quote unquote members of these groups and believing that this is their. David, are you okay? Like David's dying.
I'm fine.
David looks like he's dying over there. I want to make sure, but you're my brother. Are you okay? Are you okay? But but the way that they kind of trick people into this whole thing is they send a lot of contradictory messages. They preach a certain strength about this group, how you should feel about being a member of this group, what you should feel, while also at the same time saying what needs to happen in order for that strength to kind of be validated, I guess, in a way. And one of the biggest things about this is what people don't realize is there is a philosophy behind this, a major philosophy. I believe it was branched out of the early 1920s, I think is really when it started to take root. It was before the Second World War. I think after the First World War is when kind of the critical theories really started to take hold. Now, I am not a critical theories expert. I'm learning more and more about them. They are very interesting. I could definitely recommend people to listen to about them. There's Helen Pluckrose, James Lindsay, Peter Boghossian are three that pop right into my brain that talk about them all the time. The book is Cynical Theories that I've heard a lot about this from, with Helen Pluckrose and James Lindsay writing it. New Discourses podcast is another good one, but also go take the time to read the philosophers themselves. It's a lot of nonsense, and it's some of it's tough to ingest, like your Herbert Marcuse, your Antonio Gramsci's, your Pablo Freire's, and things like that. But you'll see exactly where this stuff is coming from. But I've gotten a little philosophy. Let's continue on track here. This comes a lot from critical theories, and I'm going to break down some of the critical theory areas and kind of what they're at base level they kind of preach, and then what the hook is, and then what kind of the, I guess, victimized nature of it is that they also fall back on. So if you look at it, Dave, stop me at all if you think I'm wrong, you want to add anything in any of these. So we're going to start off feminism. Feminism has been around for a long time. First wave, second wave. I believe we're currently in third wave or fourth wave. Feminism, Dave, I don't know which one it is. It's third or fourth wave. I
thought it was fourth wave. I may be wrong.
Third wave, fourth wave. Sure. One of them was extremely violent and extremely revolutionary. And one of the things about feminism, it took a Marxist turn when they got extremely violent. That never truly left. They just kind of all disagreed on how to be Marxist. This current one is very much, you'll hear a lot of stuff, and you're seeing it everywhere now, more than normal. With the females, they teach that women are strong. Women don't need men. Women are intelligent. Women can do every single thing a man can do. But at the same time, they'll also out of the same mouth that they say, women are strong, they could do everything, they're this and that. But the big but, the patriarchy is holding us down from our potential. The patriarchy, white men are really holding us down. They're the ones that are making us not be able to achieve our goals. So at one token, you're quote unquote trying to build up women, saying you can do everything, you're strong, you're this and that. But then at the same time, going to them and saying, oh, this is your victimhood, though. If you can't get past a hurdle, it's not your fault. It's never your fault. It's because the patriarchy, even if it's a group of all women that you work with, somehow the patriarchy was at work there. The structure of patriarchy held you down. And that's a group of women now in this generation being taught that. Extremely contradictory messages. Moving on from the women's angle, LGBTQ plus, we talked about that. And putting them all in a group is insane at this point, because the LG, lesbian, gay, has kind of been forgotten. They are the forgotten group in this whole thing. They almost seem to be being erased. But you have the bisexual, trans, queer, which queer doesn't even belong in this, to be quite honest. They're their whole entire study on their own. And then the plus is kind of like whatever the fuck else you want to be that day. And their whole shtick is be who you truly are. But at the same time, as much as they're preaching be who you are, love who you are, kind of what David was saying, accept yourself. But you can't accept yourself unless everyone else accepts your lifestyle. And anyone speaking out against you is violence. You hear this type of stuff. But again, contradictory messaging. And it's messing with people's brains that, again, the message, be who you are, be this. If you want to be a transsexual, do it. If you want to be queer and different, do it. But you can't be who you are. You need to be validated through everybody attending the gay pride parade. You need to be validated with everybody agreeing with everything that trans people say. You need, like, there isn't allowed to be any pushback on this, or otherwise, for whatever reason, you are now not validated as a person. It's violence against you. And that is how they're being taught how to think. So there is no strength. They're not telling them to accept who they are. They're telling them to rely on other people's opinions of them in order to accept who they are. Let's keep going here. I'm going to jump into fat studies. Believe it or not, that's a thing. I don't know if many people have heard of it, but fat studies is a thing. And what is the thing with fat studies? You're seeing it everywhere. When you're seeing commercials with overweight women modeling really tiny shit, and everyone else in normal America is looking at that going, oh, okay, I guess that's cool. And then they play that commercial 17 more times, and you're just like, all right, get this fucking chick off my screen. I'm done with her. This is where it comes from, is fat studies. And what they hear all the time is self-love. Love your body acceptance. Don't body shame. But at the same time, you're not allowed to have your opinion of your own body. So if somebody's fit and they say, well, I think your lifestyle is wrong. You're fat. Obesity shows to kill. We're worried about you medically. No. You're not allowed to say that. You need to accept my definition. Because if you don't accept my fatness, then all of a sudden I can't accept my fatness for some reason. This group of fat studies, they have a vendetta against the health, against gyms. They have a vendetta against like doctors. They think obesity is like a bigoted thing, like talking about how obesity kills. I'm curious how they feel about COVID-19 and the fact that it is known that obese people die more from this. Like, it's, again, contradictory messaging. Love your body. Don't body shame. Body love, body positivity. But everyone needs to go along with it. So what's the strength in that? If you truly accept who you are, if you truly love who you are, if you truly love your body, then why the fuck should it matter what anyone else says? Why should it matter if the fit guy is going, well, I'm fit and I think that you're not. And this is my choice. I think a fit lifestyle is better than a fat one. You can't say that, because all of a sudden that invalidates their opinion and their life, and you're wrong. So again, contradictory messages. Last one I want to touch on. It's the one that everyone hears about. Critical race theory. Critical race theory is, let's start off with this to piss everybody off. Yes, it is in schools. Yes, it is. It is in schools. It's been in schools for a long time lately. And no, it's not just a law theory, you fucking idiots. Everything could be dumbed down. We're not teaching first graders calculus, but it's still math, you morons. Like, I can't stand this. Oh, you can't teach the law thing to kindergartners. No, you're not going to teach it to kindergartners in first grade. You could teach elements of it. You could teach parts of it, and it's still the theory. The best way to put it is it's the praxis. It's the practice and the action and teaching it. That's what is there. And it is a dumbed down version. So I'm just getting that off my chest for people that are stupid. But they preach with critical race theory that, and I think I'm going to lump together a lot of just, the Black positivity movement, which in itself sounds benign. But at the same time, they're teaching to be, Black power, Black strength, all this stuff. But then, like all the other ones, you now need to accept everything they say about it. You have to accept their definition of racism. You have to accept their definition of history with the 1619 Project. If not, you're automatically racist. And sorry, CRT says already, if you're white, you're a racist, period. So there's all that. So again, they talk about strength. They talk about positivity. They talk about all this, but that strength is predicated on outside things, not internally. So this is the crux of all this type of stuff. That's kind of like a base level talk about some. I didn't touch on all the critical theories, but those are some of the important ones and some of the ones that are really fucking up our kids and have screwed up a whole generation. All these things are designed to, what I said before, problematize. Only find problems, pick things apart. Because if you didn't notice, they preach strength, but the strength is through certain demands. So they have to find problems, because if you're not reaching these demands, and a lot of these demands are, unattainable, you can't, not everyone is going to be able to, not even that they're going to be able to jive with them. Some of them are just straight up wrong. So it's based off problematizing. There are no solutions in any of these things that I said here. They're never giving a solution as to how to even, I guess, comply with any of their friggin' demands. It's all just bow down and everything I say is right. And here's the bottom line. All of this shit is as un-American as it gets. And I know people are going to I'm not pounding my chest like, oh, patriot, me, ha, ha, ha. Not that. But just in the sense of what America was kind of brought up on. And no, it wasn't on the backs of slaves. It was not that. That is not the American dream. I'm so tired of hearing that nonsense. What America was found on is individualism, was being brave and breaking away from a major power and a way of life. A lot of people gave up pretty good livings in England to come here. That's what people don't realize. They weren't all the pilgrims. They weren't all persecuted. Some of these people were members of, law already in local areas, aristocrats. Some of these people saw opportunity and were wealthy, but they gave up a lot to come here. And the dream was, come here, work hard, be an individual, take chances. Don't worry about everybody else. Do what you need to do in order to make yourself and your family better. Dave, there's a reason why on our first coins, they had mind your business on it. And I know in our context, when we hear somebody say mind your business, it's kind of an offensive thing. Like, leave me the fuck alone, mind your business. It has some realism in there, though, because there were two meanings to mind your business. And the reason why it was on currency, first reason it was on there is because it is a reminder that when people look at it, that you need to take care of yourself. You need to do your job, take care of your work, mind your business, your actual business, your work. Mind what you do and continue to do it and work on doing it well. And the second reason was the actual definition that we just talked about. Stop worrying about everyone else. Don't worry about what everyone else is doing. Do yours and don't worry about anybody else at all. Dave, I didn't give you a chance to talk about any of the theories over there. Do you want to jump in with any of the theories as I espoused on them there?
Yeah, I'll jump in. I'll do some thoughts on some of those. For the most part, as you said, I mean, critical theories are meant to, as you put it, problematize. I would say that they are specifically contradictory. They're meant to basically break your brain in a way. They're meant to be irrational by never truly giving you yourself a real way to become the better version of you. And instead, it only focusing on your identity, not your interests, not your passions, not your ambitions, anything like that. But I mean, specifically with all of them, I'll just roll through them.
Sure.
With feminism, I mean, with most of these, I would say that there is a need for them at one point. Maybe some may disagree. And I would love to hear the reason why, because honestly, a lot of history it's not really black and white, as we could see. There's things that are out in history that people haven't heard of and that could always be around that you just don't know. But I would say most, if not all of these, had at least some need to come about. The problem is that there are certain people that like the collective mentality, and they generally go to these groups and then get into power, and then they stay in power, and they only put those that think the same way in power, because those that I would say think more individually they may enjoy that group, they may go to that group, but they don't really want to have that much power in that group unless it really helps them in the long run. Yeah. Let's be honest there. But the thing is that, like you said, all of these are very contradictory. They kind of preach the same thing in a way, except it's just to the identity group. And it is love yourself, but it's not loving yourself in a theological kind of way. Because in a theological kind of way, in a Christian, or honestly, most religions, you love yourself in the fact that you're basically understanding that there are things that you need to work on, and you love that you are who you are, and you love that you have these certain things that you enjoy doing, and that you have family that you love hanging out with, that you love being with, and you have so many different things that make you an amazing person.
Yeah.
But loving yourself also comes with the fact that you have a million plus one things to work on as well. And that's where critical theories are meant to basically break you, because they don't explain to you that there's these a million plus one things that you need to work on. It's more of a million plus one things that society needs to work on. Society was built this way so that you can't even get to working on yourself because it wouldn't matter, because the society is putting you down anyway. That's what a bunch of critical theories are talking about.
Yep.
That's why if you ever hear someone bring up, especially CRT, critical race theory is the big hot button issue right now. But that's what it means, is that critical race theory explicitly states that America was built by white men for white men. The system itself will always be racist, no matter how good it seems to be getting, no matter what. It just means that the racists found a way to hide it more. If you think that makes sense, I would love to talk to you. Yeah, because honestly, I would love to talk to you, because I'm trying to understand why racists would go so far to hide racism by promoting black people. That's my thing about it, is that would you really go that far to hide your racism that you would promote black people and job offerings and everything else? But other than just CRT and all the critical theories, it's just the main issue is that we'll get to, but the main issue, like you said, is more mind your business. Obviously, we're very individual focused, but it believe me, it feels better when you could sit here and you could analyze yourself. It's a lot of scary things going on in a single person. Believe me, that's why you see a lot of people crack and a lot of people join things that they don't want to join. Why do you think cults happen? Because there's a lot of scary things in human beings. And if you feel like someone else could teach you the truth about yourself, you're going to go ahead and do it. But that's not what it is. You have to find that within yourself through all of your hard work, through all of your, and honestly, I'm not going to lie to you. It may not pan out, but that's what life is. That's unfortunately what life is. And the thing is that it's going to get worse if you go with the group. It is. It's going to get worse, and you'll never really find who you are unless you break from the group. Because if you're just stuck to someone else, you're never yourself.
And, not to mention intersectionality, which is another big part of critical theories now, brought in by one Kimberly Crenshaw, who's credited for bringing it in. And she's also a big CRT person. She studied directly under Derek Bell, who is like the grandfather of CRT. So she brought up intersectionality and basically saying that she's a woman, but she's also black. So she not only doesn't have to deal with the feminist issues of, the patriarchy holding her down, but she also has to deal with CRT, with the whole entire system designed to be against her as a black person. So again, and she'll talk about the certain things like black people are strong, black women are strong because women are strong and this and that. But the systemic racism holds us down. And the patriarchy on top of that, which designed the systemic racism, like you'll hear these types of things. And it's so contradictory from all of this stuff. And we didn't even mention, Dave, that with this, you talked about the brains cracking. And it causes a lot of mental disease and mental issues. It causes, why do you think every single kid now has anxiety? Boy and girl. Every single kid claims to have depression. Everyone has had a panic attack by the time they've reached middle school. Like it is really, really, really fucking with the brains of our kids. And they go after kids when they're at their most vulnerable, at the beginning of puberty, when they have no idea what they're doing. They just like chocolate chips yesterday, and you offer them a chocolate chip cookie today, they might burst into tears because it's their least favorite food they've ever eaten. Because Sally liked Tommy, and she offered him a chocolate chip cookie, and Tommy says, "Those are fucking gross. Get away from me." So now Sally has to hate them because she's 13 and doesn't know anything about her life. But these are the type of kids that they're now influencing and saying, "Oh, well, because you're a girl, Sally, you shouldn't, don't take what Tommy says," which is at base root fine. But then they continue, "Don't take what Tommy says because he's a boy, and men have been holding women down forever." So it's like they mask these good messages of don't give a shit what so-and-so has to say, but don't give a shit not because you're good, you're fine, do you can overcome it because you're a strong individual. No, because outside forces have made you weaker. And if Sally happened to also be black and Tommy was white, oh, don't listen to Tommy. He's a cis white man. He's part of the patriarchy, and they've been holding down women forever. And they're also racist, so they hate black women. So Sally, your job is now twice as hard as a black woman to ever make it. And if she's a little overweight, oh, well, they're always going to hold you down because you're fat. And they're going to tell you need to get in shape, but you don't because you're good the way you are. So they just compound. And they're starting to tell kids this at a young age, middle school and high school. They're starting to preach this type of bullshit. And now they're sitting there and making people self-conscious even more than they already are. And they're getting in their heads. And it's just they're abusing young kids. This is straight up child abuse. And what we need to start telling kids is exactly what the message is in this episode here. And I know the title sounds mean. No one needs to accept you for who you are. But in the end, it is a positive because it is like David said, we need to get back to a method where nobody needs to accept you but yourself. And we need to be teaching people that. We need to be teaching people that again. Dave, you had something.
I was just going to say, even though some teachers are that out and some principals even are out in the open about some of the stupid shit they do with kids, like the one principal that was actually segregating classrooms.
Well, hold on. Quickly, go back to our high school. I'm going to put our freaking high school on blast. This might put me in a bad relationship with the current principal. I don't know if he's still there, Dennis Adams, but and I'm sorry for calling you out by name, but I got to because this is fucking bullshit. While you were in high school, they had a black-only assembly. Mm-hmm. That is awful. That should never be done. I'm not going to say where he's from because whatever we talked about, but that is terrible. That should never happen. Well, that's a fireable offense in my eyes.
And see, the thing is that what some of the people that do this are people that are just caught up in the web and they're trying to do the right thing. I'll give some people the benefit of the doubt, but some of them are much more insidious. No, because the ones that are insidious about this because they know how to hide it.
Yes.
I cannot remember the full story, so I will not go down it because I don't remember the location. And I know it's better to have it prepared, but I'm sorry.
It's mostly in Virginia lately, David. It's mostly
some of it's in Virginia.
Virginia and California.
You'd be surprised. And there's a bunch of stories in Texas and everything like that.
That's true.
But there are certain teachers. I can't remember the full story, but I remember there's two teachers that had a Gay Straight Alliance club that they were hiding that it was a club. So
I remember that. Yep.
But they were basically preying on kids because they were able to find kids that they had convinced to join the club through literally looking over their shoulder while they're searching the web to see the ones that were searching different things. And then those are the ones they chose to talk to. Those are the ones that they chose that, this club would be great for you. And that's the thing is that there are some that are genuinely meaning well. They're just not thinking through things. They just aren't. It's that simple. Because how many people have done, would it be for whatever reason or whatever topic, they do something dumb, but they meant to do something good for the person that they did it for. It happens all the time. You do it. I do it. Everyone does it. But the thing is that who means it and who is actually being like evil and insidious about it by how much they're trying to sneak it in and how much they're trying to really, really dig it in. And those are the people that I honestly need to get the hell out of schools. They really do need to get the hell out of schools. Because I'm sorry, if you're looking over a kid's shoulder at the websites or whatever they're looking at, and you're going to get them to join this club to further your narrative and to further your ideology, you need to get the hell out. And that could be either for the Gay Straight Alliance Club that you had that you didn't have as a club, so parents didn't know that their kid was going to it, or whether it be some kind of Christian teacher that's just trying to get them in so they could do Bible study, and then they can maybe eventually they'll try to pray the gay away or something like that, something outlandish.
Yep.
But that's the thing. Get them out. We don't need you in a school. You're not helping kids. You're hurting them. You're just hurting them for your own ideology.
So I have an example here, and actually in pop culture, and it's got, people are going to make fun of me. I don't watch this show, but my mother-in-law was over and she was watching the sequel to Sex and the City, Here We Are. I think that's when Here We Are, something like that. And they have one scene where one of the main actresses and her husband were at a school and they were having some issues with their daughter. And I guess the daughter, I came in at the part. I was going around doing my thing. She was watching the show and I jumped in because I saw the part, just quickly watching it. And I saw the part and they're just like, oh, well, we have a very inclusive classroom here and we accept them for who they are. And I got the crux of it, that the issue was that their daughter decided that they wanted to be called a different name and be a different gender. And without telling the parents, they then encouraged that individual, encouraged her to pick a new name. And we're calling her by that new name. And we're then they were meeting with the parents because they had concerns because she came home demanding that she wanted to be called this name. She's not a girl anymore. She's a boy. I need all boy clothes. I need all this. And then when they went to talk with the teachers were correcting the parents, saying him, no, this is their name. And the one guy brought up and said, she's 12. She would eat cookies and yogurt for every single meal if I let her. And then, and that's when they brought up, oh no, but we foster a very inclusive, caring, and accepting environment. And I'll tell anybody here, and that's kind of where David goes, I think, with the meaning well. Some of these people, I think they're doing the right thing by doing that. And some are nefarious and know that they're fucking kids up. But some think they're doing the right thing. And what they don't realize is they are mentally abusing these children by doing that.
I think a good book to pick up and read, if you're wondering about how bad it can get in schools and how bad it can get with kids, read Irreversible Damage by Abigail Shrier.
Yep.
It is about what is basically, I'm going to put it this way, and you could dislike me for saying it. You could text me about it if you hear this. It is a social contagion on young girls wanting to be transgender because they get acceptance and love from it, because they see their friends and their teachers clapping for them and they want to be cool too. And it's part of it, at least, but it's become a social contagion that is happening. And we could call a lot of fads. It's not really, it's not a fad to some people, obviously, but we can call a lot of things that happened in my high school days and your high school days and our sister's high school and everyone's. Yep. There's been social contagions around in time.
Yes.
But this is just another one. But the problem is, this is one where young girls are now able to go to a doctor and have a sex change in some areas, a full sex change in some areas, being told that they could just go and get new breasts later on in life.
And well under the age of 18. Happy with it. Well under the age of 18. They're kids.
15 years old.
Yeah.
15 years old. Able to go and get a sex change when their body is not fully developed either, when all the hormones and everything going on through puberty is not fully done. They're able to go to a doctor and get a full sex change.
And now
this is the problem. That's why it's called irreversible damage.
I can't remember where I heard this from. It might have been from an interview with Abigail Shrier that I heard this from, but this here, what's going on, and I'm not trying to demonize transgender people. There are certain people who are transgender. That is fine.
I'm sorry.
That's how you feel. Go ahead, Dave.
I'm sorry, but that's the thing. If you fully believe that what I just said is trying to demonize transgender people, please take a step back and listen again to what I said.
Yes.
If you actually believe that, think about how you're thinking about what I just said, because the protagonist in what I just said was teenage girls. The antagonist was not a transgender person. It was the doctors doing that to them. Yes. So if you think that, take a step back, reevaluate, clean your room. I don't know, do something. Repackage your mind in some type of way where you're not just trying to find offense everywhere.
But David, love is love. Love is love, David. Even if it's an underage love, love is love, David.
The podcast is too long. Just
all right, but quickly, I forget where I heard this from, but this is not only attack on straight individuals. This whole thing that they're pushing is attack on the gay community, because how many genuinely gay young adults that are homosexual are now being steered to, well, you're a girl and you like other girls, so don't you really feel like you're a boy? Or even the more, there are manly gays in the women community. There are feminine gays in the men's community. And when they show those and they project that, they are being told, oh, no, you obviously are a boy. You obviously are a girl. Switch over.
Finish the podcast, because I could go on, but finish the podcast.
Hey, listen, it's a good topic. That's not anything to it needs to be talked about. It needs to be talked about. I could
talk about it, but we've been on for a long time. It's going away from what we're saying.
Okay.
So finish the podcast.
So, but it does go into accepting who you are. Because again, we need to get more people to be hard, rugged individual. And it comes from strength. And the bottom line is, we need to start preaching strength more than collectivism. We need to start telling people you don't need acceptance. You don't need acceptance from your mom and dad. You don't need it. David's my brother. David doesn't need to accept shit about me, and I don't need to accept shit about him. If David's okay with who he is, as long as it's not genuinely destructive. If David's doing heroin, I don't care if he accepts the fact that he's a heroin addict. I'm going to try and stop that. Self-harm, things that are going to kill somebody are unacceptable.
That was my point, and this is where I'm going to finish off. I'm not going to say anything else. That was my point when I said love yourself for what you are, for your strengths and your interests and your hobbies and your ambitions and all these things and your dreams and your goals. Love yourself for that. Love yourself for the fact that you could get a lot of shit done and you could go to places that you may never even expect in life. Things just happen. Honestly, say yes to a lot more and you'll see how far you could go in some places and things you may never thought you would like.
Unless you're truly gay and you're underage and someone's trying to turn you trans. Don't say yes.
Yes. Yeah, but whatever. No, but the thing is about that, though, is that you also need to get a handle on your weaknesses, get a handle on your control of your willpower. And when you're about to do something that has negative consequences.
You have that gut feeling. You absolutely know that. You have that gut feeling.
You know that if you eat that donut, you're probably not going to feel good later. It might taste delicious now, but you're probably not going to feel good later. And it's not never do that. It's not never do that ever again. You're going to just hurt yourself. No, it's understand where you are right now. Try to become a better you step by step, because there's always a better you. There's never a perfect you. There's always a better you. But try to lessen out the damaging things, the consequences that you are putting on yourself. Try to lessen that out. Get something done a little bit earlier. Certain things, maybe plan something out more. Whatever you need to do, whatever your weakness is. Work on that. You're not going to perfect it. It's always going to be around. Work on it. And that's the thing that's not being taught a lot of. I'm sorry, I want to come in.
A big cure
being taught
for this is listening to Jordan Peterson, 12 Rules for Life, and then Beyond Reason. What David just said is kind of a synopsis version of what Jordan Peterson kind of preaches.
Well, what does clean your room mean? What does it mean?
Get your life in order.
Exactly. It's not just literally clean your room. Obviously, we both listen to Jordan Peterson, but really it is honestly, and he would probably say it himself, this is
even literally cleaning your room is a good start.
Yeah, no,
That
but
is the
this
good
is just
start.
yes, but I'm just saying this is just basic,
Yeah.
not even advice. It's just something you need to know and something you
Yes.
need to grasp is that if you keep making damaging choices, you're just going to keep damaging yourself. And you know it. Everyone knows it around you. It's just the fact of the matter is that you can make small ones. Who cares? As long as you're bettering yourself as much as you possibly can. Sure, you have a bad day. Whatever, dude. Like get through it. Get through it. It's gonna suck. You're gonna be unhappy. You're gonna pity yourself a little bit. Whatever. Get back on the horse. Have your better days. Become your better self.
And I think one of the issues is, and people might take offense to this, but I don't care. We have never had a time in history where we have had so many men who are fucking bitches. And it is a collective that are just absolute bitches about everything. That they are just soft and they are weak. And I think it's one of the reasons why MMA is so big, Dave, is because we as men, especially in America, are so friggin' weak that we like to try and project ourselves to individuals that are actually strong, because men aren't willing to go out and do the hard work. Don't get me wrong, there's guys in construction and do those things still, but mentally we are extremely weak as men. And it's because we were groomed in schools to become weaker. Toxic masculinity is a thing. Toxic masculinity is the biggest bullshit I ever heard. There's no such thing as toxic masculinity. You need masculinity. It's a good part of order. Men were designed and made to be protectors, hunters, gatherers. That is the goal and the DNA of men. And we're being taught that that's wrong. We're being taught that aggression in men is wrong, that fighting in men is wrong. Because when you say, they talk about mansplaining, men speaking up over, it's because men are just dominant, more dominant by nature. Our goal is to dominate others, period. That is our drive. And we've been falling that in to the point where now we're a bunch of bitches and we're weak. We just want to be dominated. And it's a terrible way to be. And it's just why we're seeing so much nonsense go on. And we're not accepting it. No one accepts themselves. That's why we're all friggin' depressed.
I will say, the other thing was supposed to be the last thing I was going to say, just wanted to throw this in. With the mansplaining thing, I will say that I get what you're saying. I will say a good amount of it, though, is probably guys that are really awkward, but they have some things they know a lot of. And when they see a woman that's like speaking of it, they're like, oh, I get to show off. So they just go through. But like, they
don't know how to talk to women. This is their chance.
Exactly. Sometimes it's just really awkward guys who are like, oh my God, I know a lot about this. Oh, especially if she doesn't like know a lot. Like, oh, that would look so cool to her. That's just something just going through the guy's mind. They're like, oh, that maybe she'll like that. And awkward guys will do that 100%, especially if they think that maybe you'll like it a little bit.
And don't get me wrong, there are genuinely men that are threatened by strong women, but that's the same thing. There are men that are threatened. Those men that are threatened by strong women are genuinely also threatened by strong men. They are just weak people. So I don't know. The mansplaining thing is stupid, but overall, the end of this story, the moral of this story is you need to start accepting yourself. We have to stop babying these kids. There needs to be no more safe spaces. There needs to be no more trigger words. There needs to be no more of this shit going on. Don't outwardly look to offend each other, because that's wrong. Unless it's your friends, offend away. But microaggressions don't exist. None of that stuff is real. That's the thing. They've made shit up to make people more on ends, to make everybody more offended and piss everybody off and mess with their brains. And we see more and more of it. They talk about how important mental health is everywhere. Why is mental health such a big deal? Because they're trying to convince everybody that everybody has a little bit something wrong with their mental health. That's the reason why we always hear about mental health. Not that it's not real, not that it's not important, but it's also an excuse. Everyone uses it as an excuse. I needed a mental health day from work. The fuck you did? Go to work. Go to work. You don't need a mental health day. That's insane. That's insane. Unless you had a nervous breakdown, which most people pretend to do, because like I said, everyone now has a panic attack. We are just way too weak. We don't allow anyone to accept themselves because we tell everybody that they have a ton of things wrong with them and that there are so many things against them. And they believe it because they're being taught it at the age of puberty. So in the end, moral of the story, do whatever the hell you want. Just go do it. Be an individual. Truly love yourself. Don't blame anything that's going on negative to you on outside forces. Accept them, combat them, move on. Dave, anything to say before we got to close out?
No, sir.
All righty. So I hope you enjoyed that episode. I hope I lost a few listeners. And if I did, good, because you weren't necessary anyway, if you got offended by all that. That was lightweight work. But I really appreciate everyone that comes in and listens. Again, thoroughly enjoy doing this. I'm happy that Dave is back. We'll probably take another like 19 weeks off between each other, and I'll just do a ton of dailies because that's just how me and David operate. Like, share, follow, subscribe, all that good jazz. Rate 5 stars. Tell everybody about us. Even if we offended you, tell about us, because it seems like everyone wants to be offended now. So please come back and get offended again. Socials, not going to give them to you. Don't deserve them. Go search the Alex Questa Show wherever you are, and you'll find us popping in there. As always, I appreciate everybody for listening. Hopefully, David and I will be back next week. If not, I'll just give you a daily and you can enjoy that too. So, everybody, so long. Have a good one.